Hello, my fellow Americans. Today we're going to be learning about the geography of the United States of America and Canada, of course. Now, first, the United States and Canada are considered a region for a variety of reasons. They share a large mass and they share a common heritage. Both countries were settled by migrants from Asia, sometimes around 1500 years ago, and then by the British and French in the 16 and 1700s. Both countries also share a democratic form of government, with elected officials who make laws based on the will of people. This is a shaded relief map of the United States. Notice the flat plain across the central United States. This is an elevation map for North America. Notice the mountains running up from the west coast from Central America all the way to Alaska, my home country. We will work our way from east to west across North America, taking a brief look at the major landforms that define the region. The first region is the coastal plains. These sedimentary deposits were eroded from the interior mountains and extended outward from the continent for several miles. These plains from both the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. They are low in elevation, generally flat, and in the past were heavily farmed. There are many good ports along both the Gulf and Atlantic coast. I love America. Because these plains are low in elevation, they are subject to flooding both from excessive rainfall, runoff from the interior, and from storm surges due to hurricanes. Millions of Americans are at risk from coastal flooding. So, be safe, America. The Piedmont is the area between the Atlantic coastal plain and the Appalachian Mountains. Oh, I'm sorry, Appalachian. Nope, that's not it either. Whatever. These regions extends from New York to Alabama, and in the past was intensively cultivated. In the last 200 years, the soil fertility has been depleted by this exploitation, and there are serious erosion problems. That's not very good, is it? The eastern edge of the Piedmont is an escarpment or cliff called the fall line. As water moves downhill from the mountains towards the ocean, it falls over the cliff, creating waterfalls and rivers. In colonial times, people moved goods primarily by boat or wagon. Old times. Now we have cars. The fall line was the farthest upriver a boat could travel. Cities became established at the bottom of the falls where people had to transfer their goods to a different form of transportation. Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Richmond, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Augusta, Georgia are all situated along the fault line. Here are some shots of different areas of Piedmont. The Appalachians are the oldest mountains in the North America. North America. These 480 million year old mountains were created by the tectonic plate collisions that formed the supercontinent of Pangaea. The mountains are a ridge and valley system that extends from Canada to Alabama. Because they are so old, they are eroded, and the tallest peak, Mount Mitchell, in North Carolina, is mere 6,684 feet above sea level. That's crazy. This is one of the many eroded granite domes in the Appalachia. How do you see that? Appalachia. Nope, I can't get it. Whatever. The Appalachia system. This is the Blue Ridge Mountains in Tennessee. Getting around the northern Appalachians is the St. Lawrence River, which begins in the Great Lakes of North America. The St. Lawrence Seaway opened to navigation in the 1959s. Construction of the 180-mile stretch of the Seaway between Montreal and Lake Ontario is recognized as one of the most challenging engineering feats in history. 7 locks were built in the Montreal Lake Ontario section of the Seaway, 5 Canadian and 2 United States Americans, in order to lift vessels to sit 246 feet above sea level. The 28-mile Wayland Canal is the 4th version of a waterway link between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, first built in 1829. The present canal was completed in 1932, deepened in the 1950s as part of the Seaway project, and further straightened in 1973. Today is 8 locks, all Canadian lift ships, 326 feet over the Niagara Escarpment. That is a big number. Oh my gosh. West of the Appalachians is the Mississippi Basin and the interior plains. The river runs near from the Canadian border south to the Gulf of Mexico, a distance of 2,340 miles. There are major tributaries of the Mississippi, including the Missouri, the Ohio, and the Arkansas rivers. This satellite view shows the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. Notice the difference in colors of the rivers. What causes that? I don't know. You answer that. The Mississippi drains all the rain and snow that falls across the middle of the country. The Mississippi River basin provides fertile soil for agriculture, and the river carries 60% of United States grain shipments, 22% of oil and gas shipments, and 20% of coal shipments. This is the River of St. Louis. What is this the view of? West of the interior plains are the Great Plains, and in the north, the Canadian Shield. This map shows the location of the plains. The western plains are relatively dry, as they are in the rain shadow of the Rockies. There is a lot of ranching here. In recent years, Wyoming, North Dakota, and parts of Montana have experienced an oil boom as fracking has taken over the industry. Fracking. The plains are pretty flat. As Arctic fronts move south, they meet warm, moist air brought up from the south, creating immense thunderstorms and often tornadoes. The plains were a wondrous ecosystem when the first European settlers arrived. However, years of plowing and grazing had led to erosion, and now most of the original prairie is gone, along with many feet of topsoil. The plains extend to the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, visible in the distance. The Canadian Shield is the area surrounding Hudson Bay. The Canadian Shield is the oldest exposed rock in North America. It was scraped by the glaciers during the last ice age. The glaciers carved out thousands of lakes, including Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes. The original soil was removed, and because of the process of erosion and decomposition, it slowed by the cold weather. Little soil has been accumulated in the past 10,000 years. It's pretty easy to see the scraping done by rocks stuck in the bottom of the glaciers in the false color satellite image. Here is a field full of glacial erratics. When these glaciers melted, these rocks were stranded miles from their origin. Big Rock is the largest of several thousand erratics found in Alberta and in Montana, called the Foothills Erratics Train, which originated from a landslide in the Tonkin Valley of Jasper National Park. Big Rock was transported along the confluence of the Cordilleran ice sheet and the Laurentide ice sheet, approximately 12 to 18,000 years ago, to its present location. West of the plains is the mountains and basins region. This region extends from Mexico to my homeland of Alaska. Oh yeah. The Rocky Mountains were raised up by tectonic activity about 80 to 55 million years ago. Since the mountains are relatively young, they are ragged and tall. The more northern end contains glaciers. These are the beautiful Grand Tetons in Wyoming. This is a glacial lake in Canada. And these are the San Juan Mountains in southwestern Colorado. Treeline is the elevation above which it's too cold or too dry for trees to grow. The elevation varies with latitude in more northerly or southerly places. The lower in elevation the tree line. Here is about 11,000 feet on southern facing slopes. The Continental Divide is the line that separates waters flowing east and waters that flow west. To cross the line, water would have to flow uphill, which it doesn't do. This is the divide in the southwestern Colorado. Crossing westward over the Rocky Lands, you in the Intermountain Plateau and the Basin region. The region stretches from Mexico into Canada. That's a lot of space. The largest plateau is the Columbia Plateau in Washington State. It's very dry due to the rain shadow created by the coastal range. Most of this whole region is a dry desert and semi-arid scrubland. Death Valley, the lowest point in the United States, is located in the southern part of the basin. Death Valley is 282 feet below the sea level. That's really deep. The coastal ranges are, of course, along the coast. On this map, they are called the Pacific Mountains. I wonder why. These mountains extend into Alaska. I love Alaska. And they are called the Alaska Range. In northern Alaska is the Brooks Range. Oh, Alaska has so much things. I love Alaska. The climates vary greatly in North America, from warm, humid subtropical in the southeast to semi-arid in the west, to tundra in the far north. Prevailing winds in the United States blow from the west to the east, but Canada is subject to cold winds blowing from the South Pole. Humans first arrived in the Americas via a land bridge from Asia during the last ice age, around 15,000 years ago. The land bridge is known as Beringa. Europeans arrived and began to create settlements in 1492. I love America. Today, Canada still experiences the after effects of the original claims. Quebec is French-speaking. The North is mainly Inuit First Nation people, when the remainder are descendants of the British immigrants. Dense human settlements occur mainly along the coast and in the Mississippi Valley. In Canada, the majority of the population lives within 100 miles of the border with the United States. Why don't they live farther north? Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.